function. So you've got your data out of another system or from a database, and you basically need to import it. These are things that you're probably going to have to do with it to cleanse the file. Okay, so if I double click on my CRM lead import, okay, I can see that I've got my file basically containing some lead names and some address details and things like that. So what I'm going to have to do is get these into the right format to be able to import. So if I go into my original file there and I want to try and overlay one with the other, that's not quite what I wanted. Let me try. I think it's within the same window. Yeah, there we go. So basically, if I get my original one there first and then drag my other one down a little bit, there we go. I can see over the top of this one what I've got on my template. So the first thing I've got here is a contact name, effectively, in column A. Now I can see the heading I've got on my file is called name. Now name isn't a valid heading in my template, so I can't import this file with just a heading of name on this column. I'm going to need something else. Now the first thing that comes to mind is contact name. That looks good, so I'm going to call that first one contact name. Okay, the second one I've got on my file is company. Now company again doesn't exist anywhere on here, so I'm going to have to change that. Now company is actually going to be the lead name. So I changed that, and now I'm on to address 1. Now if I just go back to my template a second and let's move it along a little bit to get to the address details so that I can see them, and then go back to my other file. Okay, so I'm now going to change my address, my add 1 I should say, to address 1. Okay, now add 2 is going to be address 2. Okay, now add 3, I can see it's got a mixture of data in. Now, this is really what you'd have to do with export data or a database that maybe you buy in that you want to import into the system, is you're going to have to try and cleanse it somewhat. So, I mean, address 3 could well be city, because we, as you can see from the template, we've actually got separate fields for city, postal code, and county. So maybe that I want address 4 to be county. Okay, but if I look, I've actually got some streets in address 3 in the city column now. So maybe I do actually need address 3. So what I'm going to do is just insert another column in there, and I will actually have an address 3. And then I can always move some things across. So maybe I want that in there. If we just go to the right a touch. Scotland isn't really a county, but so I'll take them out of there because that's obviously a country instead of a county. And there's various other things I can obviously do to this to try and get it into order. I'm just going to do that for the time being, but obviously if you're doing an import into a live database, then you probably want to tidy the data up as much as you can, just so that it's all going to make sense to you really. So them address details should be okay. I've got the right headings on them at least. Okay, the next thing we've got is postcode. So if I look for postcode on here, that says postal code, and there's no space, so I'm just going to change that there. Next thing we've got is country, United Kingdom. Obviously if we've got US ones or French ones or whatever it is, we need to change that as well, because it'll It needs to have the right details on there. And in here we've got telephone. The telephone's actually correct, so I can leave that as it is. And the last thing we've got is fax number. And fax number is actually just called fax. So I need to take the number out of that. Okay, so now I've done that, hopefully I've made all the necessary changes to actually be able to import my file. So let's save this. So close it and save it. Yes. Okay, and I'll close my template. I can save a copy of this if I want to, but I don't really need to. So I'm just going to close my template. Okay, so now if we go back to the import wizard, just close that down for a second and go to the import wizard. Okay, and then this time I actually want to browse for my file now that I've saved it correctly, so I'm going to use the browse file option, and I'm going to go into the import files folder and pick up my lead import there, and then click next and then start importing. Okay, so it tells me that it successfully imported the table. Click button for details. If there were any errors in here, it should say that it was aborted on this line here, and click button for details. And if I was to click button for details on an aborted one, this little window should give me errors, so it'll tell me what row the problem's on and what the problem is with that row. But this one did come in successfully, so if I go finish and then find lead, I should now find I've got my leads in there. So there we go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is import my prospects. Now, like I said before, when I was in the import files directory, this lead one is the only one that hasn't got the correct headings on it. All the others will have the correct headings on, so we don't need to go and change headings on all the others. So this next import is just a list of prospects. So again, I'm going to go data import wizard. I'm going to go next and select CRM, and this time prospects. So I'm going to browse file again. Okay, so CRM prospect import file. Start importing. Okay, so again it says successfully imported the table, and I clicked it so it come up with the details, which is just telling me successful. Okay, so if I click next and finish on that, go back into CRM and find prospect this time, I'll now see that I've got all my prospects in there. So they've all come in successfully. And that concludes the CRM setup part. So in the next video we'll be looking at customer setup.